Hi, I'm Kuber. Uh, we're going to go live today. We're trying this YouTube live for the first time for our Q&A. Let's see how it goes. Uh, Give us a few minutes till more of you join in, and then we're going to start. In the meantime, just give me a few minutes. I'm going to share this link on our Facebook group so that people within our groups can join in. Yep, just give me a moment. Okay, one done and one more to go. Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah, just give me a moment. I'm just going to get that question. Perfect. Right. So let's start from the top. I'm Kuber, and thank you for joining in. First live Q&A for 2019. Before we jump into this, let me just go through a few things which have become a common occurrence. The date changed, obviously, 1st of January. So Happy New Year. And then a lot of profiles became ineligible. Yeah. People were not really sure what was happening. Suddenly they were getting a message and that showed that their profiles, express entry profiles, have been rendered ineligible. A lot of people were worried, a lot of people were concerned. It is a technical glitch in a way that express entry system, which is the electronic system, has already updated the proof of funds requirement for the year 2019. The official announcement for this hasn't been made yet. So for those people who were working with the exact figure of the proof of fund requirement, their profiles have become ineligible because the newer proof of funds will probably be in the range of around 2% more than the last year's proof of funds. So if your express entry profile is still eligible, then you're good. You don't need to really do anything about it. If it was ineligible and if you're trying to recreate it, because you will have to recreate it, just increase the amount on your proof of funds and you should be fine. I know it's very unfortunate that a lot of you would have lost on the age of the express entry profile, but this is how it is. Right, so let's jump into the questions. We will go with the ones which were posted on the on this post earlier, because that always goes up first. Where did we go? Yes, here it is. The first question is from Siddharth. He says, this is with regards to the PR application for my fiance. I have got my COPR and would be landing in January 2019. Okay. After getting my PR card, I intend to come back and get married. Congratulations. Meanwhile, we have started the process for my fiance as a separate applicant under never married category. But we will be getting married during the process. What will be the ideal approach? We have given the IELTS and in the process of getting ECA. Please suggest whether the status can be changed, etc., etc., etc. Yes. Yes, absolutely. If you do get married before her application gets finalized or before you even get an ITA, please update your status as from single to married. In that you can mention the spouse is not accompanying, and in that they will ask, it will further ask if the spouse is a permanent resident of Canada. Please mention it as yes, and there will be no requirement for medicals or PCC. So you're sorted. So the scores will not be calculated as married. She'll still be getting her points as a single applicant. Right. Prakhar says, what are your predictions for this year's cutoff scores seeing the current trend? my favorite subject. Firstly, a disclaimer, I have a very, very bad throat. So if I start coughing and if you start hearing my voice or going hoarse, so please bear with me. So this year's cutoff. 2017, as I keep saying, golden year. Okay, the scores went absolutely low. 413 on the 31st of May 2017. We all started giving all kinds of figures and predictions that they will probably come to 425, 430, etc., from by the end of the year of 2017. Obviously, did not happen. 2018, again, extremely optimistic that the scores will drop, but it did not. Okay, and one of the biggest contributing reasons for the scores to not drop has obviously been the number of people in the pool. If you compare 2017 and 2018, the pool figures, 2017 had roughly 42,000 people in the Express Entry pool at any given point of time. Obviously, I mean, give or take a few hundreds there and there. The year 2018 was seeing the figures of 88, 89, 90. I think there was 91 or 92,000 at some point of time as well. So a lot of people in the pool. Not only that, the average number of people entering the pool, the Express Entry pool, with scores of 440 plus was anywhere in the range of 230, 240, 250 people per day. So if you can imagine, that obviously contributes to the scores not coming down, because in every single draw, if the ITAs issued were about 3,900, there were almost similar number of people who were entering the pool within the two-week period. Thankfully, before the year closed, we had the great draw of back-to-back draw, and we saw the scores coming down, or breaking the barrier of 440 and coming to 439. Great news that was. Unfortunately, the tiebreaker wasn't very helpful for a lot of people, and 439 it was, and that was the only reason why it happened, is because it was a back-to-back draw. I mean, consecutive weeks the draw happened. How is it going to be this year? I am not going to put my neck on the line and say that it's not going to breach the 440 barrier again. I actually will be surprised if it does. And if it does, the only time it will happen is if there is another back-to-back draw, consecutive weeks, or the number of ITAs per draw goes up. Looking at the figures, looking at the quotas, looking at the targets, the year-on-year targets for 2019, there is a substantial increase, of course, of about 6 to 7%. The number of ITAs that will be issued for this year will be in the range of 95,000, considering the number of people who decline their ITAs, people who get rejected on their R10 completeness check, people who get refused with their applications. So the number of ITAs which basically go waste, if you want to call it, because people declined it, people got rejected, people did not file their applications properly, that's anywhere in the range of 32 to 34%. That's a big number. So in order to compensate for that, they obviously issue more ITAs than the number of immigrants that will be coming in. Considering each applicant, or rather, sorry, considering each successful ITA translates into 2.24 or 2.35, I'm not exactly sure right now on that exact figure, but each ITA, each successful ITA equates to 2.3, let's say, immigrants who successfully make it to Canada. Going by these categories and going by these statistics, hi, sorry, we just got disconnected for a bit. So yeah, if this happens, then the number of the score isn't really gonna go below 440, 439, 439 if it happens back to back. But yeah, unfortunately, it's gonna stick around within that figure. So you will see 2019, if there is no back-to-back draw, if the number of ITAs do not really go up, around the same range of 441, 442, 445. The next draw is probably going to be next week. And if that happens, the scores are actually going to go up. I expect the draw to be anywhere in the range of 445 upwards. The reason is obviously a long gap, and yeah, tough one on that. But having said that, we expect some changes in the provincial nominee programs. We expect, obviously, the quota for the provincial nominee programs have gone up. And because the provincial nominee program quotas have gone up, you will see increased intake on certain programs. You will see maybe some changes in the fundamentals of certain programs as well. And one of the biggest worrier, or rather one of the biggest programs that worry people is Nova Scotia, because they still operate on the intake window kind of a model. And if they change, then yeah, it's going to be a bit of a tricky one. But let's see how it goes. I'm very optimistic. I'm forever hopeful. I always hope and pray that something different, something better, something nice will come out of all these things. Regardless of the fact that how many people are feeling demotivated, are feeling depressed with things not going their way, you have to keep at it. IELTS obviously is the biggest make or break story. But please do keep working on your IELTS. I'm sure you'll get there. CLB 9 to say is very easy, but to achieve is pretty difficult sometimes. I know a lot of you get worried with the 0.5 that you keep not achieving in one of the factors. But keep chipping away, keep working at it. I'm sure you'll get there, right? Okay, I hope, Prakhar, I was able to answer your question. Right, Farooq, as always, I am an SINP applicant from June 2018. Okay, you have two quick questions. My invoice tab disappeared for 3 whole months, and when it came back in mid-December, my funds were not converted, nor any ADR was received. Can you please tell me what should I expect from now on, as I haven't witnessed any timeline. Okay. Then second question is, since I'm a single applicant, I was maintaining 16,000 Canadian dollars equivalent to Pakistani rupees in my bank statement, which was more than etc. Due to depreciation, your funds have decreased. Okay. Do I need to deposit more? Right. Two questions there. See, SINP, the fund conversion is always a good thing. You haven't seen it yet. I really can't tell you why it disappeared from your profile for 3 whole months. To be very honest, I can't tell you, because I do not know exactly what went in there. But if you haven't got any ADR, it's a good thing. You see, Saskatchewan they're tough cookies to crack. They take a lot of time in their processing, and 6 months is pretty common. 8 to 10 months is more like it. So if you haven't received any ADR, don't be too worried about it. It probably will happen. Once you do see the conversion of your funds happening, you will know that it's going to happen pretty quickly. As far as your funds are concerned, and they've depreciated, as you said, please update your proof of funds. Please keep your funds ready, because once Saskatchewan starts converting your funds and realize that the fund equivalency has reduced, they will ask you for an updated proof of funds. You will also need updated proof of funds when you actually file your application with the CIC. So yes, by all means, please update your proof of funds and keep it ready. When Saskatchewan asks for it, do provide them the updated ones. And when you do file your application with IRCC, have the updated proof of funds ready. And do keep an extra margin for the fluctuations. Right, next one. Ajay Singh says, with regards to PNP, will software-related NOCs 2171 to 2175 again be included in any of the provinces? Need that desperately to push the CRS above 450? Great question. 2018 was pretty cruel to all you IT people out there. But you know what? All of you IT guys out there, you've had it pretty slick. Usually your NOCs are usually in demand, whether it was Nova Scotia, whether it was Saskatchewan, and then suddenly both these provinces decided that they didn't want these two NOCs in demand in their provinces. Ontario actually ran a special program for about a week or 10 days in 2000 was it 17? Yes, of course, magical year. In 2017, where they sent out notifications to people anywhere with the 300 CRS. Yes, but 2018 by and large was pretty cruel to IT sector as such. And will these NOCs come back in any of the provinces? My crystal ball here has lost its Bluetooth connection. Unfortunately, it always happens whenever we have this live Q&A. My crystal ball tends to lose its Bluetooth connection with IRCC, and I'm not able to see in it and tell you what the future holds for these NOCs. But to keep the jokes away, I would be surprised if the IT NOCs do not come back in demand. The reason for that is there is so much of cyber, IT related activity happening up in Canada, thanks to our southern neighbors and their wonderful leader. They have managed to sort of scare a lot of IT companies away. They've managed to scare a lot of H1B IT aspirants away, and they're all looking up north for some sort of a way out. So I'll be very surprised if IT NOCs do not come back in demand. So I'm quite hopeful that they will. When they will happen, which province that will happen is something which I wish I could tell you, but I can't. Right. Next question is from Nikhil. He says, my real brother has been rejected a visitor visa of Canada recently. Do I need to mention it anyway when I create my Express Entry profile? Nikhil, no. If your brother has been rejected any kind of visa, it does not reflect on your application. You don't need to mention it, and it doesn't affect your application in any which ways whatsoever. Right, what do we have? The next question was, oh, I seem to have lost this connection. Just give me a moment, guys. Okay, got it back again. Strange, seem to not have the question here. All right, so let's jump on to the live questions which is happening over here. Great. Right, so HeZTuber says, I have a question. I have already got my ECA done from WES. Excellent. But now I have an additional degree from SCDL. SCDL, I think, is that Symbiosis? Which is not recognized by WES, but ICAS does it. So my question is, will I have to submit all the transcripts and whole procedure all over again, or can I just send them my WES report along with the new degree certificate proof? Yes, technically you can just send them your WES ECA along with the SCDL. Is SCDL Symbiosis? I'm not sure. Is it Symbiosis? I think it is. Just let me just run this quickly. What is SCDL? SCDL. Yes, of course, Symbiosis. Yeah, I thought I knew this. All right, sorry about that. So yes, by all means, send it to ICAS and send them your WES ECA. And if they still need your original transcripts, then they will ask for it. Otherwise, just the transcript from Symbiosis should be good enough. Next one is Vishal says, has the POF limit been, I think it's increased. Right, so Express Entry system, within the Express Entry system, I am sure the POF amount has been increased to the new LICO figures for 2019. It hasn't been announced. I think it should be announced tomorrow, Saturday. It's not going to happen tomorrow. So I guess somewhere early next week. Expect an increase of roughly 2% over the old proof of funds requirement. And if that's what you've mentioned, then you should be good. Harsimran says, I have heard that if we receive salary in cash, we will not be able to get through Canada Express Entry program. Is that true? Not true at all. Harsimran, see what happens is CIC needs proof. Okay, because your salary was paid in cash, you will still need to prove that your employment was reimbursed and it was a paid employment. Provide an affidavit from your company, provide a salary certificate from your company, provide pay stubs, and all of this must mention that you are paid in cash, and you should be good. The next one is, again from Vishal, it says 6 months bank statements from when? Are you, okay, all right, I get that. From ITA or AOR? Vishal, there is no requirement to maintain your funds for 6 months. But since CIC asks for the last 6 months average monthly balance, a lot of banks do not mention it on the letter. And therefore, we basically provide the last 6 months bank statement. It's always from AOR, from the application submission date, and not from the ITA. Okay, Vishal, if you have same query as Harsh Simon, I think you've already got it. Vikas, your query from Hyderabad then, buddy. Okay, D. Manali says that proof of fund has been increased, but CIC has not announced it yet. Thank you for adding that. Vinesh says, I have close to 7 years of experience. Do we need to provide all experience letters to apply for Nova Scotia province? The reason why I'm asking is that I just want to avoid my current employer reference. All right, good question. You see, for express entry, you get points maximum for 6 years for your eligibility scores, and you get maximum points for 3 years for your CRS. For Nova Scotia, they want to see your work experience for the last 6 years. So if last 6 years your NOC is in demand, and that's the NOC that you have your work experience in, then please provide work experience for the last 6 years. If the NOC in demand that you have work experience in is for the last 2 years, 3 years, 1 year, then you can squeeze it down to provide only that particular work experience. For your work experience for which the NOC is not in demand, Nova Scotia is not interested. I hope that answers your question. SDB18 says, why are applications taking longer these days? My GCMS shows everything's fine, but the last update was 3 months ago and the day notes were generated. Just a bit concerned. Okay, great question. This is going to take a few minutes, so let's jump right into this one. Okay, so what has happened is, in 2017, June, there was a lot of changes in the system, right? So there was sibling points added, additional French points added, and all this also meant that there were some changes made at the back end. It was never announced, but on the back end, initially, before this period, CIC would assess applications in a sequential order. So if part 1 of the application is assessed, then it moves to the next process, and the part 2 is assessed, then the next one, and next one, and next one. So R10, and then your assessment, and then the criminality, and then the security, etc. After this period of time, what happened is that the back end workflow process started, and they started breaking down the application into several parts. So R10 was still the first part of the application, and R10 stands for Immigration Refugee Protection Regulation, Section 10, which basically talks about the person having to submit a complete application, including all documents, formats, validity, etc., etc. So once it passes the R10, which basically means your documents have been checked for completion, your application is checked for completion. From there on, the process starts in simultaneously. Because it started simultaneously, therefore, we saw a lot of applications being processed pretty quickly. I have seen one person getting a PPR within 13 days from AOR, so that's amazing. Then there were so many other people who reported PPR within 30 days, from AOR. Again, great processing times. But then slowly it started adding up, and backlogs were there. And as of today, it's anywhere between 5 to 8 months. It's actually gone beyond the 6 months process. There are so many people whose applications are not being processed within 6 months, but they're actually going beyond the 6 months process. So first thing, don't get worried. Second thing, your interface that you have with CIC, the CIC account, unfortunately, it doesn't really give you a lot of insight into what's happening on the back end. So even if CIC is working on your application, you really do not see anything. You don't see any movement, and you start worrying what is happening with my application. That's not exactly so. The third thing is that there's a queue system. So Program Assistant has a queue of documents waiting for him. R10 finishes the R10, goes to the case analyst or a program assistant or a program officer or a case officer, depending on what designation that person might hold. Now this person again has a queue. And when this person gets these documents, this person is going to assess this application for all the A11.2 checks. A11.2 stands for Immigration Refugee Protection Act, Section 11, subsection 2, which basically defines the parameters under which this application will be assessed. This is where your work experience will be checked. This is where your proof of funds will be checked. This is where your other aspects of your application will be checked. And this is actually where it takes the most amount of time in the processing. At this point of time, if the program assistant finds anything which he or she is not happy with, this will go for the review of your case officer. And again, it's in a queue. So by the time the case officer sees it, it's going to take some time before the queue is cleared and the backlog is cleared. Once the case officer then takes a decision, takes a call, and probably asks or makes changes, it goes back into the queue for the case analyst, her to do. And again, it's back in the queue. You see, so all this queue is what is creating all this jam and delaying the processing. Tough. I mean, it's a tough call. But you see, the number of applications have increased, and the number of staff are the same. Resources are always going to get stretched. Add to that, there has been such a huge increase in the fraudulent documents. We all know WES has stopped accepting documents from Indira Gandhi National Open University some time back. They earlier had a problem with the Punjab Technical University. Obviously, that was rectified, but they did have for a period of time. And then they came back on 1st of December and said, from here on, we will not accept documents coming from the applicant, but they must be sent directly by the university. Excuse me. All this was happening because there was an increase in fraudulent documents that were being presented that only made our life difficult and the life of the visa officers and the visa case analysts and the program assistants difficult, because now they have to assess and reassess and check all the documents again and again and go through everything minutely. Takes a lot of time. Earlier, what a step would have costed, say, 5 minutes is now taking 5 plus 5. And then if it comes back into the review, it's again in the queue and then again takes 5 plus 5. It keeps adding up. And once it keeps adding up, it backs up. And once it backs up, it keeps taking time. So this is one of the reasons why it's taking so long. This is how it is. Unfortunately, nothing much can be done about it. I'm sure at some point of time, there will be increase in the number of resources that CIC has. And once or until that happens, sit tight. Don't worry about it. 6 months is average. And in most cases, they do manage to process the application within 6 months. Current timelines are wavering anywhere around, or rather hovering anywhere in the range of 5 months. But they are actually crossing into the 6th, 7th, 8th month as well. So relax. Don't worry about it. Hopefully it should come through. Okay, the next one from Django Dawn is, I have a question with regards to my application. Yes, of course. I have a review required on my work experience because I have submitted alternative relevant documents as per Ask-A-Bear. Okay, perfect. Well, if you have submitted all the relevant documents as per Ask-A-Bear, trust me, you should be fine. But since what you're mentioning is not really giving me a lot of information, I wish I could tell you what the issue here is or what could be done. You see, CIC basically needs 3 things from your work experience documents. First, foremost is that they need to check your work period, which year to which year, how many hours a week, etc., etc. Once this is established, second thing what they're trying to do is make sure that your NOC that you have chosen matches with your roles and responsibilities on your reference letters. And the third one is that your employment was a paid employment. These are the 3 most important things that CIC is looking for in your reference letters. If you did not have a letter as required by CIC, then we have always suggested alternatives on my blog, on our Facebook group. And if you have provided those alternatives, then even if it's a review required, trust me, it will get through. The review required, you see what happens with the review. Let me explain this review required business. Immigration law is the same. It has been specified. Nothing has been changed there. Immigration officers, program assistants are different individuals. Some of them are new. Some of them are pretty old. Some of them are pretty senior. They've seen a lot of these documents. They understand it. They know what works, what doesn't work. And then the new ones who are still going through a lot of training. They have gone through the immigration law training, and then they understand the rules and regulations and the operation manuals, etc., etc. However, the same law could be interpreted differently, could be applied differently by the same individual. So today, the same individual could look at the immigration law and apply it differently. Tomorrow, a different individual or a different program officer or a different case officer could apply the same law in a different manner. If they're not sure, it will obviously be review required because they're not sure about it. So the case officer must make a judgment call on that. And therefore, it sort of keeps hanging into the queue business that I just explained. And therefore, it's a review required. But trust me, if you have provided them ample of proof for all the three things that I just mentioned to you, your document should go through fine. It shouldn't be a problem at all. Okay. Django Don says, how long will it take until I hear from CIC? They said it's a review required. Well, as I said, I can't tell you how long it's going to take. If your application is review required, then if they have a concern, they will come back to you. They will ask you for clarification. They will ask you for additional documents. And if that happens, please do provide them the required documents and you should be fine. Possible implications? Well, if your documents are not convincing enough, if your documents are not the way they should be, as I said, the implications are you will get a review required. Then you will get, if they are really anything serious in there, you might get a PFL. PFL stands for Procedural Fairness Letter. It basically means procedurally they're giving you a fair chance to explain yourself before they will refuse your application. So if it has reached the PFL stage, then it's a bit serious already. But I would not want you to get so anxious about it. Review required is pretty common, and you shouldn't have to worry too much about it. A lot of applications are getting review required for small things, simple things. A case officer has to take a call on it. Okay, I know it's very frustrating, it's very irritating, but just hold on in there. Just let's take its time. Do not rush in and try to offer additional documents when they might not be required. If at all they need it, they will come back to you. They will ask you for it. Okay. Until such time, please just hold on there. Right. Sarah says, "Can I get CRS?" Oops. I'm sorry. I seem to have jumped up on that one. Okay. Yes, Sarah. Hi. You say, "Can I get CRS points for two different NOCs?" Yes, Sarah, you can. As long as you have at least 12 months continuous work experience in one NOC, you can have multiple NOCs and you can get points, CRS points for combined period of work experience, maximum for 3 years for CRS. Sudhakar says, "Can you please tell me about Prince Edward Island? Is it okay for an Indian family with children to live and work?" Well, absolutely. It's a beautiful province. It's a great province. Yes, it's a smaller province. Yes, it's an Atlantic province, but it's a great place to be. I mean, I haven't lived there for a long time, so I really couldn't tell you how it would be as a life for a person who's living there. Probably you could connect with people in Prince Edward Islands. Connect with them on LinkedIn, connect with them on different Facebook groups, and you could exchange notes with them and see how life with them has been, and they could give you some tips. Harsh says, AOR 27 November, no updates. Okay, Harsh, 27 November is just, what, a month something? 40 days back. You have a long way to go. If you start getting anxious with only 40 days into the timeline, you will have a very, very rough 6 more months or 5 more months to go. As of now, the medical pass or R10 completeness check is between 40 to 50 days. So I think you should be hearing or you should be seeing your medical pass very soon. Robin says, "Do I need to provide the balance letters and 6-month statements from all of my bank accounts? I just have FDs in one account and no cash in another." Robin, you need to have, or you need to show your bank statements from the account where your proof of funds are. That's what CIC says on their website. So if you have FDs in one account and no cash, please provide your statement, or whatever other account you might have, provide the bank statements from that account. Minakshi has retracted her. Okay. Sarah says, "Can I get 2 points for 2 separate NOCs?" I just explained that, Sarah. Yes, you can. Absolutely no issues there. For your NOC 1311 and NOC 4021, yes, you can get work experience points. Chandrasekhar says, "Any target for the number of ITAs?" Yes, Chandrasekhar, I think we just went over it. It should be in the range of 94,000 for the year of 2019. I hope they issue more than that. That will be a great thing to happen. Vishal says, if I want to do the ACA for 2 degrees and go with doing ECA for 1 degree now and other later, do I need to pay the complete fees again? If you do not evaluate both the degrees at the same time, then yes, you will have to pay an additional fee if you give them a credential later on. Meeta says, any particular area in Canada where PR is easier? Checking for son who's planning masters this year on study visa. Meeta, there is no such thing as PR being easier. PR is actually easier throughout Canada. I mean, so basically, if your son is going to study his masters, ask him to study wherever he feels he can get a good college or a good program or a good, admission into a college. And once he gets his 1 year of work experience, cracks his IELTS, everybody here is going to tell you that the PR is going to be very easy for him, considering it's a Canadian education, Canadian work experience. Voila! I mean, it's going to be a cakewalk for him. So don't worry about it. Doing masters in Canada is a great idea. Pooja says, for biometrics, when will it be requested and how to provide the same? Pooja, your biometrics request will come in your CIC account after approximately 1 month to between 30 to 60 days after your AOR. Once you get the letter, it will have the details of how you can get your biometrics done. In most cases, you will have to go to the nearest VFS, which is equipped to take your biometrics, and that's how you'll get it done. They will usually take your picture and they will take your fingerprints. Farouk says, can you please answer my question on the Facebook post? I think, Farouk, I already done that. Okay, Robin again, it says, after I get the PNP nomination, we get a child in my family. Do I need to inform the province? You don't specifically need to inform the province, Robin, but I always suggest that you do. After all, they are the ones who have given you the nomination, and they have some statistics to maintain. So please do inform them. Netsurf says, your answer to Heezy Dubers could backfire with IQAS. Sending Wes ECA result to IQAS, your answer. I am not sure, Netsurf, that's your name, if that's what you mentioned, as to why it would backfire, because you have given details to IQAS saying this has been your previous degree, this was your previous equivalency, so that necessarily doesn't have to backfire. What you're doing is you're just providing the credential assessment in addition to what SCDL credential are. But if you think it would backfire, then by all means, I'm scared, I should be worried. Heezy Tubers, I take my words back, because Netsurf thinks it should backfire. I would say always play safe, and if you want to then again send your documents to IQAS, by all means do it. Varun says, does getting a gift deed along with all the required supporting documents for full part of my POF make my case any weaker? Varun, you can actually get gift deed for 100% of your proof of funds. It's not an issue. It does not make your case strong or weak. CIC wants you to have your proof of funds available. You should have the liquidity. And if these funds are coming into your account within the last 6 months, then they need to know where did the money come from, because they want to make sure that this money has not been borrowed. And proof of funds is one way of proving that the money has been gifted to you and it's not borrowed. So absolutely no weak or strong factor in that. Pawan Guru says, I did not include my experience in US and included in personal history. I am unemployed and did not know my status. I mentioned H1B left by, please help. Pawan, I am not sure what the question here exactly is. If you did not include your experience in work history, then you would not get points for it. But if you have mentioned it in personal history, that's the right thing to do, because you were supposed to mention it in personal history. And if you are unemployed, then mention it as unemployed, and that's just about it. Okay. Sachu says, many people are stuck in background check of June applicants. Criminality completed, security checks are pending. After that, no response from CPC Ottawa where my file is processed. So what exactly is the question? Again, you see, June applicants are also now reaching, or rather actually have crossed 6 months, or I think have crossed 6 months, right? But the current trends has already gone beyond 6 months. It's averaging between 5 to 8 months. why your application is held up, I wish I could tell you. I do not know the exact status of your application, or only CIC is best suited to tell you that. But just have patience, I understand that it can get very frustrating and very anxious. You can get very anxious about it, but there is absolutely nothing I could tell you from that comment. Ramanathan says, how to send transcripts from university to S if the university usually don't send it. Ramanathan, I wish I could answer that question for you. I can't, because that is the requirement from West. They are asking you specifically that the university should send it. And if your university is refusing to send it, then I think WES is the best placed to answer as to what is the alternative. I would hate to say something here and put my foot in my mouth, so I'm just going to avoid doing that. But Ramanathan, I think West is better placed to give the answer to that question. Rubina says, urgent medical question. Is there an... I'm sorry, I lost that one. Hold on. Okay. Is there an issue if someone has one lazy eye with very less vision and the other one working perfectly well? Rubina, I do not think that should be an issue. And the reason why I feel it should not be an issue is for these reasons. Medical inadmissibility checks for three things: safety, security of Canadian nationals and citizens and residents. So your medical condition should not be that it poses any threat to the safety or security of Canadians. And the third factor is the excessive demand. And excessive demand basically means that your condition should not be such that you pose an excessive demand beyond the threshold which has been announced or decided by Canadian government. It has just been increased to 20,000. I don't remember exactly the figure, but it has been increased to 20,000 some change Canadian dollars per year. And with the condition that you're talking about, I would not think that it would cost that much, and hence you should not have an issue with your health condition. Okay, Sachu says you have submitted on the 25th of June. It is above 6 months. Yes, absolutely, it's above 6 months. Please write to CIC, ask them what's happening. They should ideally respond back, but as I said, it's anywhere between 5 to 8 months as of now. Rina says, I want to ask whether B.Ed is considered in Quebec skilled worker program, and if yes, how to know because it's not considering in CRS calculator. Rina, Quebec has its own program. I would ask you to go to www.askobey.com/QSWP. I have listed in that the entire grid point of how you can calculate your eligibility points. You can actually make your profile on the ARIMA portal on the Quebec website. They also have a educational equivalency portal. Again, the link to that is also available on my website. Please review that, and accordingly you should be able to reach out to the support desk of the equivalency portal and get an understanding of what will be the equivalency for your education. Robin says, my 3 companies' reference letters, I use the same format, just details are different, got it printed. Is this going to raise some concern? Well, it's going to raise concern only if it looks staged, okay? But if all the documents are verifiable and there is nothing for them to get suspicious about, or if it doesn't raise any flags, it should be fine. Sachin says, can you give opinion about ICES? Sachin, ICES, you would go to ICES only if you're desperate, in the sense like they take a lot of time, okay? Their customer support is negligible. They hardly respond to many queries. So yeah, I mean, I would not use ICES unless I am really desperate, and if there is a credential which nobody else is evaluating but for them, only then I would go to ICES. Farooq says, Farooq, I've already covered that question, so if you don't mind, please rewind this video and take a look again. Varun says, as an actor, my consultant has also asked me to prepare a self-declaration. Okay, Varun, self-declaration letters are not accepted by CIC in most cases. Unless you have absolutely no other option, self-declared roles and responsibilities are not going to cut it for you. Pawan says, should I raise a CSE for my personal history? Pawan, why should you raise a CSE? I mean, honestly, I'm not able to understand your query here exactly. And if you already mentioned it in your personal history, then there is nothing to mention anymore. Please do not raise CSEs for no reasons if there is nothing much to mention to them. Varun again says, does having distant relatives that are Canadian citizens matter at all? Distant relatives, no, they don't matter at all. I mean, uncle, aunt, niece, nephew, grandparents, and yeah, that's just, these are the only relatives that can give you 5 eligibility points. Apart from that, in CRS, you cannot get any other help from them. Farouk, again, I'm seeing your question, but I've already answered your question, so please just go through this again. Okay, Rumi says, kindly conduct a separate live program for PNP program in details. Rumi, point taken, and we shall get to that very soon. The reason why I'm holding back on that is because I expect that there will be changes into the PNP programs. I'm expecting a lot of changes actually, and so any video that we do now will not hold true if the changes come. So just wait for some time till the changes are announced, and then we'll do a video on that. Varun says, what are the chances at 428? Unfortunately, I do not see very promising chance for 428 as of now with the current trend, the way things are. NOC 3113, please check different provincial websites and see where you could be in demand. Clarify on PNP. PEI, there is nothing specific mentioned by them as far as their NOCs in demand, and they have been favorable towards French speakers and for people who have job offers in PEI. That's just about it. Unnati says, my score is 8, 6.5, 6.56 respectively. I have IT background, so what are the chances? Unnati, improve your IELTS, get 8,777, and then the chances open up. Apart from that, each province has a different program, different criteria. You will have to check individual provincial websites and see their individual criteria, their programs, and see where you can fit in. Okay, Harsh says, does visa depend on type of NOC? No. Mandeep says, I'm thinking for Montreal for my masters. Is Montreal a good idea provided I don't speak French? Good question, Mandeep. Concordia is a good university, nothing wrong there. Doing masters in Montreal is also not a bad idea. It's pretty good. Once you do study in Quebec, you do have an option to apply for PR through Quebec programs, but they're very lengthy programs. Because you don't speak French, you may have, or rather you will struggle a bit, because Quebec, obviously, even Montreal, the large part of Montreal is predominantly French speaking. So the good thing is that if you do go to Montreal, you will start learning French at some point of the time. So you will add that language to your portfolio, and that's always good. Being being bilingual in Canada is always good in the long run. So if that helps you, then by all means do go to Montreal. If not, then maybe you want to look at other options elsewhere. Chirag says, whom to get in touch with if your application takes longer? You can order your GCMS notes. You can write to IRCC using a web form, and that is just about it. There is nothing much you can do. But wait patiently. Purva says, my name is completely changed after marriage, which is, okay, I'm applying with. Excuse me. But my West report is with my maiden name. Can it cause? No, it will not cause a problem. Please just attach one and the same person affidavit, which can be made by any public notary, and you're good. Pulkit says, what will be the chances of revising demand list for the provinces in a short duration? Pulkit, I wish I could give that answer, but I don't know. Last year, Saskatchewan changed their demand list quite often, and probably they're going to do it again, but there is no way of saying what NOCs are going to be in demand and which ones are going to be taken off, or rather when it would happen. Saurabh says, I am post AOR. I've submitted post office term deposit. Our consultant suggests us it's not necessary to bank statement. We have not submitted it. Well, Saurabh, if you haven't submitted it, there is nothing much you can do right now. Post office term deposit is not the best POF instrument unless you have provided a letter from post office as well saying that that can be liquidated on demand. So it's a tricky one. I mean, it could go either which ways. So I would say just wait it out. After a few months, order GCMS notes and see how they have been looking at your proof of funds. Unnati, about your cash salary, I've already answered. Please see this video again and you'll get the answer. Maninder says, my AOR is 20th October, medical passed on 20th November. Since then, no update. That's all right. I mean, it's only October, so you have until what, April, May to go. So just relax. Not May, probably March or April. So don't worry too much about it. Pooja says, sorry, Pooja, where did we go? Okay, I seem to have skipped. Yeah. Pooja says, the spouse work experience letter required. If the NOC is wrong, then will it cause rejection of application? Pooja, spouse work experience gets you points only if it's Canadian work experience. If it's overseas work experience, then the spouse work experience does not get you any points. So the documentation that you provide, if you have mentioned your spouse work experience in the work history, the documentation that you provide is still checked because it will go under the background check, but it really doesn't matter. If the NOC is wrong, also it does not matter because it does not affect your score in any which ways. So don't worry about it. But it does add to the process time a bit. Mandeep says, my study visa, I want to not go for SDS. Okay. Although I have funds and required, I'll score for SDS, but I still want to go for general category for study permit. Would that work fine? Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's your option and your choice whether you go through SDS or not. If you want to go through general category, by all means do it. It will just take a bit more time in the processing, that's all. Okay, Pawan, again the same thing, but honestly speaking, if you've already submitted your application, if you mention everything in your personal history about your unemployment, then just leave it at that. Don't really mess around with it. Whether your H1 visa has been cancelled or not, that doesn't make any difference. What matters is what you have declared in your personal history. If you are unemployed and you have mentioned it as unemployed, then just leave it as it is. Arslan says, can we modify our experience in order to best suit with NOC and claim it? Wow. Arslan, that is not exactly what CIC is looking for. CIC is looking for your work experience, which you have genuinely achieved or performed, or that's what your work experience is. Modifying it to a certain degree, is all right, in the sense like if you try to use vocabulary differently, or if you try to use certain activities which you may perform occasionally, but in your reference letter you mentioned that you perform it more regularly, even that's fine. But I'm not sure exactly how much modification you're looking for. Make sure it doesn't account for misrepresentation. Okay, Syed says, do I need to submit bank statements for my secondary account for which I transferred about 5K, which I will submit for POF? Syed, see, if the money that you are showing in your account has been deposited recently, then you will need to show the source of those funds. And if it is from your different account, then I would suggest you show both the accounts. Ramnathan, are we back? Yes, we're back. Okay. HMS says, my first week August AOR is still at IP1. Should I go for GCMS? Call center told me NDVO. Okay, call center told you that your application is at New Delhi Visa Office. First of all, there is no such thing as IP1, IP2, NA1, NA2. These stages are redundant. These are mythical. They don't mean anything. They do not give you any kind of indication. So what you are looking at, and I've just explained that earlier as well, unfortunately your CIC interface is not very transparent. It doesn't really tell you what's happening. But the fact that it is at New Delhi visa office means it has already reached your local visa office, means the assessment has already started. So yes, you can by all means order GCMS notes, but please do not get stuck with this IP1, IP2s. Okay. Pawan Guru says, please tell me any social media tips. I can't. My application is in progress. Should job media reflect my current job profile? Okay, social media tips. Yes, Pawan, of course, all your social media accounts should be inconsistent with your application. So for example, if you have posted pictures at Trafalgar Square or near Eiffel Tower, and you have actually never been, or I'm sorry, and you have actually never mentioned in your travel history to CIC that you were there, but your Facebook profile picture shows that you were there in the last 2-3 years, but none of that has been mentioned on your Express Entry application, then that's tricky. If your LinkedIn profile doesn't really mention all the positions that you have held as you have declared in your application, then again that's not going to work very well. So yes, please, by all means, social media accounts should always be consistent with your application. Good question. Okay, NetSurf has retracted the message. Okay, Reena says thank you Reena, you're most welcome. Alpha Interior says, what really happens in eligibility? Well, Alpha, they check whether you deserve the points that you have claimed, whether you actually have the 67 points that you are claiming for, whether you do have the CRS points that you're claiming for. All this is happening at eligibility. If you do not have 67 points, you cannot be eligible. So they're going to check whether you do have those points based on what you have claimed. Pulkit says, what is the area of training which is required as per Quebec and how to calculate point for same? Pulkit, again, www.askobay.com/QSWP. In detail, the whole blog is talking about how you can check what points will go for which kind of factor. Please give it a look. Priyank says, my employer has no online presence. Will it affect my eligibility? Priyank, it will not affect your eligibility, but it will definitely affect your processing time. CIC relies very heavily on the online presence. That is one of the first things that they do. They do an online check about the company, about the background, about the registration, about your background, your employment, etc., etc., etc. So if your employer has no online presence, it's going to make their job difficult. And if it's going to make their job difficult, it basically means it's going to add time to your processing timeline. That's about it. But if your employment is verifiable, means they can pick up the phone, call your employer, or in an extreme condition, they might even send somebody to your office to check if your employment verifies. Excuse me. Harish says, I'm working in brick manufacturing company for my uncle. I'm a qualified civil engineer. I get salary in cash. Is this okay? Yes, it's okay, Harish. Please, the same video, you've spoken about cash salary and how that can be shown. Please review this video again and I'm sure you'll be able to get your answers. But yeah, no problem with, as long as your employment is verifiable, that's what matters. Ghulam Dastagir says, my wife is planning to apply for study permit of Canada. As per CIC, spouse of student eligible for open work permit, can spouse of student apply for provincial nomination program? By all means, yes. If you are eligible, if you have all the required, or rather if you are eligible under all the required criteria, by all means, yes, you can definitely apply. Saurabh says, in my total 8 years of work experience, I availed 2 maternity leaves, each of 6 months. Will that reduce total work experience? Yes, maternity leave cannot be claimed as eligible work experience. Alpha says, could you tell me what really happens during the eligibility stage of PR? I just did. Saurabh says, Shivpriya Gautam. Sorry, Shivpriya, I'm sorry. Arslan says, I would like to apply for NSNP, but I am not sure about my knock. My duties does include, but some or not. I'm sorry, Arslan, I did not understand, but if you're not sure about your knock, then please be sure about your knock, because that is the single most important thing. Excuse me. Your job roles and responsibilities must match, not the job title. Job title is irrelevant, but your job roles and responsibilities must match, and based on that is how they will assess your provincial nomination application and your PR application. Okay, RV says my educational requirements do not meet the requirements of NOC. Your educational requirements do not have to meet with NOC requirements. Yeah, the employment requirements mentioned in the NOC are irrelevant, and they don't really matter. The only area where they matter is for Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan is very, very strict about it. Your field of education and your field of work experience must be in the same line. Apart from that, the employment requirements in NOCs do not really matter. Dheeraj says, can we get any information related to job availability related to NOC 4011, 4021? Dheeraj, good question. Please visit the Job Bank of Canada, and the Job Bank of Canada should give you information of what jobs are available for what NOCs. Ram says, I've worked in US for 2 years, have pay stubs, and in India 18 months where company paid in cash, have cash receipts. Will it fulfill 3.5 years of work experience? 2 years, 3 years? Yes, of course, absolutely. As long as you can provide proper documentation, you're good. Kanan says, being a New Brunswick citizen is a faster way to get PR than Ontario. I am not sure what you mean, because you cannot be a citizen of a province. You have to be a citizen of the country. Karan, your question is not at all clear. I'm sorry. Dheeraj says, I'm looking for postdoc after getting PR. Will that be a good option? By all means, yes. Dheeraj, nothing wrong there. Vishwas says, after ECA, is it possible to apply for student visa? Yes, of course. I mean, how does ECA make any difference or has any relevance to applying for student visa? No issues there at all. Chakali says, please explain about work experience. Will work experience that is gained along with education, which means full-time job and full-time employment, can we claim points? Yes, you can claim points as long as that employment and education was not in Canada. If it's outside of Canada, there is no specific mention of this in the immigration law, and therefore you can claim it. And we have had lots and lots of cases where people have been able to claim it successfully and their application was successfully assessed. Omkar says, what happens if your reference letter doesn't match to the NOC code selected? In that case, Omkar, your application will be refused. In most cases, they will not send you an ADR if your NOC code is mismatching. This would call for a straight refusal in most cases. In this case, do they refund the fee? In this case, they will refund the RPRF, which is right for permanent residents fee or landing fees. The application fees is not refunded because the application is already in process. So the application fee is not refunded. Okay. Sorry. I managed to skip some questions here. Okay. Ritesh says, if my wife has got a gift deed for a POF, do I need to show my bank statement letter as a primary applicant? You don't have to. I would suggest you do, unless you have something to hide. It always keeps it very, very transparent and clear and invites no issues then. Pawan says, filled Schedule A upfront and wrote status as H1B for personal history. Left on my own, not sure my company cancelled. Is it misrepresentation? No, it is not misrepresentation if you have already declared your status in your personal history. Harish says, how can I check which NOC is in demand? Harish, you will have to individually visit different provincial websites and check their current NOC list, and that will tell you what is in demand and what is not. Omkar so says, by when do we know that they have been okay with the NOC code selected? I don't know. I mean, you can check, you can order GCMS notes, and that will give you an indication if they are happy with your work experience documents or not. Amar says, which other documents other than reference letter should be provided? Amar, as far as CIC is concerned, they have asked only for the reference letter. And if your reference letter includes every single detail that they have asked for, then you don't really need to provide any other document. However, I suggest that you always provide additional documents. Along with your reference letter, which contains all the information, I always suggest you provide additional proof of your employment. Performance reviews, promotion letters, joining letter, offer letter, leaving letter, pay stubs, income tax proof, bank statements with salary credit. You see, when you provide a complete set of documents or additional documents, which makes your application very credible, the processing happens much faster, because now the case analyst is not going to be confused as to what he or she needs to check or review in addition to what has been presented on the reference letter. Providing additional documents, you basically are giving them substantial reason to believe what you're saying successfully and positively, and I therefore always recommend you provide additional letters and additional documents. Komal says, is it essential to disclose education loan even if it is an altogether different account and the statements of account from which EMIs are being paid? Komal, you're asking me something which honestly speaking, it's your call. As far as CIC is concerned, they are saying you must list all your liabilities. So that's very clear. But you see, you don't have to be scared about your listing your liabilities, as long as you can provide your payment plan, or you can explain your payment plan, and you can explain how you are looking to maintain your liquidity of what the funds that you're going to bring into Canada. If you can maintain that, if you can prove that, if you can explain that, it's going to be all right. But apart from that, if you think they won't find out, it's your call to make. I personally always recommend to disclose all the details. Last thing you want to do is get caught with something and then the application goes in for a spin, and queue after queue after queue, longer processing times, review required, additional documents. I hate getting into those areas. Kushal Deep says, what are the chances for 414? 414 is not looking promising at all. Even for Ontario Human Capital Resources, the reason for that is there are so many people above 414 who have been waiting for more than a year now. I can't say, honestly speaking, there's no way to say. There's no way to say what Ontario is going to come out and are they going to change their program? Are they going to stick with it? If they do stick with the program, then they have been very selective in choosing people with a certain CRS range. And that has always been on the higher side. So I think the last CRS range was 430, 32 or 33 above. So 414 is looking very difficult. Sandeep Kaur says, what to write in given name in case of family, as family members have only one given name post ITA. Okay, so if your family member has only one given name, I usually write the same name twice, in the first name and the given name, and then I explain in the letter of explanation. Vikas says, my West diploma says 2 years and degree 4 years. Does it count under 2 or? Yes, it does. Saurabh says, I have also submitted letter of liquidity from post office. Will it be okay or still create a problem? Saurabh, it's best to wait for an ADR or check if it's a review required. If you have provided sufficient documents, your proof of funds should be fine. Aisha says, my CRS without spouse is 435, with spouse is 409. Should I submit profile as a single applicant and go for spousal sponsorship? Aisha, even with 435, as of today, it's not looking very promising. So unless you can bring this 435 up to 440 upwards, with or without spouse, in the current scenario is not very promising. With 2173, there is a good chance that it might come back in demand, and at least, if not Saskatchewan, probably Nova Scotia, if not either of these two, maybe Ontario, I do not know. But keep your profile active, and yeah, I mean, if you can bump up that score to 440 plus, then definitely without spouse, and you can sponsor your spouse once you get to Canada. Khaja says, we have applied under MPNP. Our EECRS score is 431. Can she apply in other provinces too? Yes, of course, Khaja, she can. Depending on where her NOC is in demand, and if she, is it she? Oh, sorry, yes. If she is eligible for other provinces, by all means you can. 431 in Manitoba is not very promising, by the way. Vijay says, will non-collateral education loan reduce your net worth fully by amount of the loan or only the required month EMI? Vijay, education loan, non-collateral, it will definitely reduce your net worth as long as you're able to explain, as I just mentioned earlier, if you can explain your payment plan, if you can explain how you plan to, maintain your liquidity coming into Canada, it's good. In some cases, there have been applicants who have been able to provide affidavits from their parents, from their relatives, saying that they will cover the education loan if the applicant is going to go or leave for Canada. So that also helps. Gulam says, dependents of the student should apply together or should wait. Technically, you can apply together, but I would always suggest that you wait. Let the applicant get the study permit approval. Once the study permit approval is received, the applicant has come to Canada, started studying. Then, if you apply, it's a better chance of going through. Pooja says, in continuation to spouse work experience, I added his only current job but not past jobs while creating profile. So remaining past experience, we should mention in personal history. Yes, Pooja, of course. You must definitely mention it in personal history. Saurabh says, thank you. Oh, okay, you're welcome, Saurabh. Applicant Canada. Okay, can one marry post ITA? Definitely you can. Will it decrease points? Yes, it will. Because if you marry post ITA, you will have to update your status, and that will automatically change your points. But if you marry post AOR or after your application has been submitted, then you will still inform CIC that your family status has changed, but it will not affect your CRS points. Any applicant Canada saying any PNP for NOC 0124? I do not know. I don't remember all the NOCs on top of my head. By all means, please check individual PNP websites for the demand list. Okay, Shalini says, can an Indian government servant apply for PR being still in service? Yes, of course, Shalini, they can. Sandeep says, oh dear, I seem to have jumped away from the questions again. Okay, Sandeep says, one more question. When filling 10 years past history, it should start from the day we receive IT or from the day when I should fill the details? The last 10 years are always backed up from the date of your submission of application. I would say add an extra month. How does it matter? Pulkit says, how difficult to get student visa after a gap of more than 8 years? Pulkit, there is no age restriction as far as CIC is concerned on study visas. The gap requirement or the issue is with the universities themselves. Some universities will not accept students who have had gaps of 5 years or more. So as long as you can get a university acceptance and you can explain to CIC the reason of the gap, what you were doing before your studies, what were your past studies, what were your work experience, how does this study program help you, how does it make your life better, how does it make your future better, then you have a good chance of going through. Okay, Ram says, second firm I worked for was dissolved in 2011. I have pay stubs, also letter if needed, since the website is no longer in existence. Kindly guide in what exactly, Ram? If you have all the documents and if they are verifiable, then please go ahead. Harish says my score is 447. Great. How much time should I expect for ITA? Well, the next draw, I presume, or maybe the next after that. Should I tell the embassy the company in which I work is owned by my uncle because my permanent resident and passport is same? Well, that's tricky because if your permanent address and your company address is same, it is definitely going to raise a red flag. You will have to, you don't have to mention it's your uncle, but you will have to provide substantial evidence and documentation to prove that this company exists, that you are working for this company, because residence and company address being same is always going to be a red flag. Gulam says there is negative effect of getting student visa from master's program where I already done my master's study. Yes, of course. It's negative one because if you already have a master's degree, why do you want to do another master's? So you will really have to explain to CIC what exactly is this about. Jatin says, what salary should I mention if I am on a position from last 5 years for the same company? What salary should I mention? Whatever is the salary you have been getting. Okay, you're mentioning as to what salary. Always mention your current salary, and that's fine. Dheeraj says our company website shows more work experience than we actually have. How? I'm confused with your question. Your company website shows more work experience than we actually have. Will that be a problem? Your question is not very clear. Ashish says, I'm submitting my application end of January. My IT is 19th of December. My proof of fund statements and bank letters dated on 27th. Should the statements be closer to AOR or December documents are okay? December documents are fine. As long as they're within the last 20 to 30 days, they're good. Harish says, does knock code selected in 0 A or B affect in future? No, it does not. Himanshu, what is the best time? As of today, Himanshu is saying, what is the best time to order GCMS notes? As of today, with the current timelines, anywhere after the 4th month to 5th month is all right to order GCMS notes. Applicant Canada with work experience with cash be an issue? I have already answered that question earlier. Please review this video and take a look at that. Jatin says, do I need to show any proof of the salary earning at the end of position A in 2015? No, you don't have to. You will still need to provide pay stubs for the end, or rather, I would suggest you provide pay stubs for the entire period, as in random pay stubs. So if you work for 3 years, provide 3 or 4 pay stubs for the first year, 3 or 4 for the second year, 3 or 4 for the final year. So about 10 to 12 random pay stubs. Education site says, where can I test and get result points? I have no idea what that question is about. Which test and which result points? If you're looking for CRS points, please go to CIC website. Pawan Guru says, included denial mails from HR that they cannot provide roles as per my policy. My floor manager gave me affidavit along with this business and ID card attaching all supporting documents. Will this suffice? Pawan, as long, I've just explained what they need from your reference letters. If you are able to provide that alternatively or through your reference letters, then it should work fine. Preet says, does single applicant file process fast as compared to couple case? Why would that be a case? I'm a single applicant, AOR 17th October, provided all substantial documents. When can I expect PPR? Expect PPR anywhere within 6 months, Preet. There is no such statistics which says a married couple gets it later than a single, or single gets first, or married gets later. There is no such statistics. So please do not fall into these kind of mental traps. Okay. I have skipped again. Okay, Rumi says, I have applied in Manitoba. My score is 575. Can my spouse submit separate EOI as an individual with different NOC to be picked up in the draw? Technically, yes, but I would not see why you would do that. I mean, between the two of you, choose who is a better applicant in terms of higher score and let that person apply. I mean, why would you do that? But yeah, I mean, your call. Yes, technically you can do it, but I don't see the reason to doing that. Navdeep says, I got selected in a government job while I was studying my MA. I completed my MA as a private candidate. Can it create a problem? No, it should not create. I mean, I don't see any reason why it would create a problem. Omkar says, if I held multiple positions in my ex-company, but the reference letter talks about the last designation, is that okay? No, it's not okay. And the reason for that is that if you held multiple positions, means they would have different NOCs. If they have different NOCs, then your reference letter should validate individual NOCs and individual work periods. Okay, Harish says, how can I meet you? Well, Harish, www.askkuber.com/appointments. That's where you can book an appointment for a personal case review or for a personal discussion, or you're most welcome to come to Hyderabad. Give us, send me a message, and then we can again book an appointment for you. Purva says, will police verification happen at the same time address location is mentioned in the passport? We have shifted to new place. Purva, it will happen at whatever address you mentioned in your PCC application. Murli says, can we change work history entries post ITA? Yes, you can, but you should be able to explain a letter of explanation as to why you're changing them. Okay. Sorry, I'm again skipped something. Yeah, I'm sorry, there's some question which I've skipped because my screen keeps jumping up and again. So Navdeep says, do I need to attach bank statements? I have attached bank letters mentioning all details. If your bank letter includes your last 6 months average monthly balances, then you don't need to attach your bank statements. Otherwise, you do need to. Dheeraj says, my employer mentions more experience than I have shown in my PR application. Should I get it rectified? No, that's fine. As long as it covers the period that you have claimed points for, it's fine. Faisal says, I have enough eligibility for Ontario. I don't need points of my uncle. Now, even if I don't need these points, do I still need to mention? If you don't need your uncle's eligibility points, you don't need to mention. I mean, you don't need to mention you have a relative in Canada, and that's absolutely fine. That's just about it. Okay, sorry. Pooja says you missed my comment. Sorry, Pooja. I mean, the screen is jumping up and about, and if I've missed something, then I'm sorry about that. Ram Krishna says, I was supposed to pass bachelor's in 2016, but passed in 18. During these 2 years, I've been working full-time. Can I use this 2 years of work experience as full-time work experience? Yes, you can, as long as this was not in Canada. Gulam says, spouse of student has a visit visa of Canada. Can he go to Canada together with the student and wait there for work permit? Yes, Gulam, you could go to Canada on your visit visa and you can apply for work permit while you're there. Jayan says, my total work experience is 8. Can I skip my current experience of 1 year and show my previous 7 years? Yes, of course you can. The maximum points for eligibility is 6. For CRS is 3. Of course you can do that. I'm sorry. Navdeep says, my employer gave me experience letter in specific performer, not in the letterhead. Without roles mentioned, can I use annual performance letter for roles and responsibilities? Navdeep, if you do that, you are opening up yourself for a review required. Try and get a document from the company which lists your roles and responsibilities. If you cannot, at least try and get them to at least let them issue you a refusal letter or an email saying we will not issue it because it's company policy, and then you can provide them your alternative, as you have mentioned, as in your annual performance letter for roles and responsibilities. Make sure it matches your NOC. Ravindra says, I'm IT security advisor working for MNC in Pune, turned 38 this March, planning to file express entry. Even with CLB9, I barely reach 800. What will be my options? Ravindra, the options are going to be only through provincial nominee programs, or you can look to get a job in Canada. And yeah, that's or basically take up French. These are the few options that you can look at. Abrar says, if I stayed with a relative in a different city for 3 months during break, should I mention that in the address history? Yes, please do. Pooja says, I'm yet to get ITA but expecting a next draw. I got experience letter for my current ongoing job and it doesn't show salary details. What document should I prove? What should I submit? Provide pay stubs, provide bank statements showing salary credit. Oh, okay. Last question. Faisal Mansoor, I have worked under 2 NOCs in 2 different companies. If I claim eligibility points for one NOC, do I still need to provide documentation for another? No, you need to provide documentation only for the work period and only for the NOC that you're claiming points for. That's just about it. Wow. This is great. Perfect. Right. So I'm not going to take any more questions, guys. This is going to go on and on. It's already almost 10 o'clock. Thank you for joining in. It's been lovely having you here and looking at different questions and going through that very, very quickly. I must tell you that, yes, we do offer paid commercial services as well. www.askkuber/premium-services. That's the web link. Do take a look. We, I think, have a current promotion running on for 25% discount flat in all the services we offer. And one of the services that we do offer is reviewing your documentation before the final submission of your application. it's a service that I know a lot of people have benefited from. We actually review all your documents. We go through the formats, we go through the requirements, we go through what matches, what doesn't match, whether the formats are correct, the validity is correct, everything. And that gives you a lot of peace of mind. Then you know your application is absolutely on the right path. So do take a look at it and see if it is something that you might need to look at. And apart from that, it's been wonderful talking to you. We will do this again, obviously. And in the meantime, good night.